You talked about Shannon Ross. That's always quite a unique one where he gets this amazing opportunity, had a tremendous Australian MMA career, finally gets to the big show. And like you said, the performances were just not what we knew Shannon Ross for whatever reason. You know, you're taking on world-class opponents, whatever it may be. It seems like, I mean, from the outside, that's kind of the last we've seen of Shannon Ross. What does it feel like for a coach to kind of know what your fighter has gone through and then not get to really display who he is on the world stage?
Yeah, it's an unusual roller coaster of emotions. Shannon and I have experienced some incredibly vulnerable human moments together, and that I'll cherish forever. And I love him dearly for allowing me to experience those moments with him. Our preparations for all of those fights were unbelievable. We threw the kitchen sink at them. We had Joseph Coyne, the former performance director of the UFC PI, running his S&C. We had all stops out, and he just looked unbelievable. I think for the first fight, we sort of thought, and this is an experience thing, right? We thought, okay, we're in the UFC now. We're going to start the fight. You're going to touch gloves. It's going to be a feeling out process. You guys are professionals. You guys are going to work out where each other are at. And so I think Shannon sort of expected that to happen. He touched gloves. He was going to have a little bit of a feeling out process, whereas Rodriguez just ran at him, all guns blazing, spinning, kicking, all that sort of stuff, and just caught him. And that was super unfortunate. He also missed weight. And but Shannon still took the fight like the warrior he is. And okay, that one didn't go our way. The next one with Jesus, we thought, okay, this is our one. This is the one we're going to really show the world what Shannon's made of. And before we even got seated in the corner, we looked up and Shannon had just hit the deck from that huge knockout. Obviously, Jesus has a shitload of power and just closed his eyes, dived forward with that big overhand right, and unfortunately caught Shannon. And that was probably the most devastating one for us because we really knew what Shannon had in the tank. And then the last one with a highly talented fighter out of Japan, big, strong flyweight. There were some really great moments of Shannon in that fight, but you could just see that every time Shannon got hit, there was just so much power from that Japanese kid that it would either sit Shannon down or he'd really get sort of impacted by that shot. Whereas the power that we had from our side wasn't quite impacting him as much. And then he just got caught by that body shot. So that was still a great fight. I've watched that back quite a lot and think that was a great fight. But unfortunately, Shannon didn't get any more opportunities. And if only those first two fights went the way that we expected them to, he'd probably still be in the UFC. And we got to take the lessons that we've learned from that. Shannon's good. Shannon is not attaching his identity to his losses. He is proud of himself for getting to the big stage. He obviously expects that he could have gone further. He's a competitor at heart and a great competitor. Yeah, I'm not sure if we've seen the last of Shannon. I know that he's always itching, but he was in the gym the other day. But yeah, I'm not so sure what's next for him. He's looking after his family and making up for lost time chasing this MMA sport, which is sometimes very unforgiving.
Do you think we see him in the cage again?
I don't know, man. I think you're going to see a lot of veterans that you didn't quite think were going to make a comeback come back. I won't let anything out of the bag. So I wouldn't be surprised if Shannon sees some of that and goes, "Fuck, I'm ready to get back in there too." Yeah,
And
we'll see.
what was it like backstage after these obviously unfortunate sort of result?
It was tough. You get whisked away pretty quickly in the UFC. They want you out of the building
The
straight
building.
away. So, oh yeah. The fighters get moved. The moment your fight gets done, you get moved out the back. You get your medical check, and then you're on the bus. Um, I don't know the reason. My assumption is that as a contractor to the UFC, once that fight is done, your contract obligations are over, and now the UFC doesn't want the liability of you being in the building if you get in a fight, if you have a drink, if you do whatever. And you're allowed to come back in the building with a ticket, but you're no longer a contractor for the UFC. So if something happens, they don't have to cover you for, anything. Whereas, once you're still a contractor, then, they're liable for what happens to you. So I don't know if you know that famous footage of Johnny,
Yeah,
is it Johnny
Johnny Walker out the front. Yeah.
Walker? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you just get shipped out straight out. So for the first couple, Shannon was okay. The first one, we just got shipped right out, and then we watched the rest of the card at the hotel and just joked and laughed and picked his spirits back up. The second one, obviously, he suffered a pretty bad concussion, so we had to sit out the back for a good hour. None of us said a word. We literally just sat with him, not one word spoken for an hour, and we were just sat in our thoughts, and we are in a super vulnerable team moment, and then he, his spirits got lifted after that, and we just said, "Wow, what a wild experience! What the fuck just happened?" And then the last one, it was me, Shannon, and Shannon's wife, Beck, which was actually a really nice experience. And we just spent some time out in Vegas and out at Red Rock and, outside of the strip, and just, appreciated where we are in life. And, we didn't get what we wanted, but, he was still healthy. He didn't get super injured. And we just enjoyed each other's company and, what we're getting to do in life. So finding that gratitude is really important. And I think that's a big role of mine too. I need to remind these guys, like, I know you're a competitor. I know this means everything to you, but this is not your identity, and the results do not define you. So you need to pick yourself up, find the gratitude for where we're at. And hey, if it's time to go again, we go again, and we learn from our mistakes.